All right, let's take a look at this Moon Knight drawing that I made. And as you saw in the opening title, this was purchased by Malcolm. Thank you, Malcolm. Really nice guy, big Moon Knight fan. It was nice talking about Moon Knight with him. Moon Knight is a Marvel Comics character from the 1970s. He started as a kind of like a supernatural, like werewolf, vampire fighter kind of guy. He used to have like moon-based powers where his strength was stronger at the full moon or something, and they did away with that. And he used to have multiple secret identities, but they later revealed it as multiple personality disorder. Um, Very unique, interesting character. So here I'm using the protractor. I think it's called protractor to make the circles there. Trying to be precise. Um, this is based on a classic Moon Knight logo. I think probably they. I think probably from the 90s. And I broke out my wearable magnifying glass, like jeweler's glasses. It's like a helmet that I wear, and it's got a magnifying glass that I can look through. I try to be more precise, do a good job here. Um, yeah. So this piece, my goal was to create, like, to draw Moon Knight, and I wanted him to be cool because I like Moon Knight. I think he's a very cool looking character. I love the white outfit. It's very well suited for black and white. Because his outfit is all white. I'd love to read like a whole, like, supernatural, gritty Moon Knight comic all in black and white. That'd be cool. So yeah, I wanted to draw Moon Knight, and I wanted to do something like evocative, like that, like really has a good atmosphere and mood. So that's what I'm going for here. You saw I put some correction tape down because there was a line that I didn't do quite right, so I fixed it. You can put, it's like liquid paper but in tape form, so it goes on straight. And you can work over it. The only drawback is if you like do ink over top, you gotta go a couple times because it absorbs ink and can make it look more gray. So you gotta check. I also do use white gouache to do uh, little corrections where I need them. And I thought the idea of like Moon Knight like in a pyramid, because the Moon Knight is like became Moon Knight by having an encounter with the Egyptian god of the night, Khonshu, or god of the moon or whatever. Anyway, so there's like a whole Egyptian motif if you look at the old stories. So I thought, like, what if he's like exploring an old pyramid or an old pharaoh's tomb or something? And so I put him underground, and um, so I've got some drips of water coming down from the logo. First, I drew the figure, and then I put the logo over top, and yeah, I thought the drips coming down looked really cool, so put that in there. It's creates a sense of like Moon Knight being uh, like it creates like a sensory thing, like the sense of like being damp and cold and exploring old dungeons. Yeah. So the hand here, so he's holding a lamp, right? And that's the source of lighting is in front of the character. That was tricky. I had to keep that in mind. But the hand position there, I had fun. I actually grabbed a bucket and I took a whole bunch of pictures of me holding the bucket and different hand positions of how like I'd like it. And I did the his left hand the same way, like feeling along the wall. I kind of took some photos and I used my own hands as reference just to get a sense uh, of like which hand positions I wanted. So I find they turned out pretty good. Yeah, playing with the foreshortening and the perspective there. I used the old belt from the Fist of Khonshu days. Uh, Back in those days, Moon Knight used to have gauntlets and belts that were like gold and had like scarabs and stuff like that, like Egyptian stuff on it. So I took the belt. I took the belt from that. Yes, I thought that was a kind of looks like a WWF belt a little bit. It's pretty bling, as the kids say. So start always with the outlines. I'm using this pen nib, dip pen. That's the traditional way to ink a drawing after I've drawn it. This is the Hunt 101 pen. So I can use it for pretty much everything. I can apply pressure and do thicker lines or go over lines again, but you can see here I'm switching to the Hunt 102, which is a thinner line. I can do thinner lines because it's a more precise, it's more like sharp nib. It's a little bit more difficult to work with. You got to plan like your strokes because it kind of only goes one way. You can only pull the line, whereas my regular pen nib that I use most of the time here for the dip ink, yeah, I can pretty much go any way. I can push, pull, and go sideways and everything. It's no problem. Getting into the shading here, which is what really adds dimension and mood, and yeah, it creates a really like cool atmosphere when you start to get into the shading. I like adding the logo. I like the ones with the logo on them. They're more work, but it makes for a really cool work of art. You know, it's like an homage to the character when you add a logo. It really feels like you're really like promoting that character, and you're showing like, hey, this is Moon Knight. This is why he's cool. Look at this, you know. So I'm gonna be doing more of that stuff. Just adding the logo, planning it ahead. This one, I wasn't sure what I was gonna put on top. I didn't know if I was gonna continue that brickwork or what. But the way that I started my perspective, I did draw out some brickwork at the top, and they were too distorted. The way I did the perspective, the brick at the top just looked way too wonky. So I thought, like, let's put the logo in there, and we'll just like make the pyramid dungeon super dark, which makes sense because like he's carrying the lamp, right? Some folds in the cape here. You gotta add some highlights here and there, right? Just to create texture, like really evoke the idea of the fabric in that cape there. A lot of people compare Moon Knight to Batman, and he's very different to Batman, especially in the early days. You saw me use a Q-tip there. That's just Q-tip carries more ink, so it's more efficient to put down large pieces of ink with a Q-tip rather than a brush or a pen. So here I'm dipping the brush with some ink to kind of fill in those areas that the Q-tip is too kind of unwieldy to get into. And the brush has the advantage of carrying quite a bit of ink in it while being relatively precise. Certainly not as precise as the nib, at least not in my hands. If you get a master like Ramita Jr. or Terry Moore or something like that, what's his name, Dave Sim, they are masterful with the brush. But I'm still new to the brush. These aren't like expensive, like high-end brushes or anything. My use of brushes is pretty rudimentary at this point. I am starting to get the hang of the pen nib, the dip pen, and I'm enjoying that. So I want to keep working on that. See here, like a lot of the drawing is made up of single strokes, just building up single strokes, build up, build up, build up. You'll see me do that soon in a bit there. Inking the water was tricky. I'd never really drawn like still water in a dark environment before, so I knew I wanted it to be super dark because like water at night like really looks black and kind of scary, so I wanted it to be super dark. So I went bit by bit, and at first there were too many highlights, so I kept tweaking it and kept working on it, and eventually the effect came out pretty good. Yeah, I put about 8 hours into this piece. Just the inking was 3 sessions of 6 hours total each, approximately. It took me a couple hours to like plan out and really kind of gather my references and get my pencils down. So yeah. Let's see, it's come together pretty good there. Good highlights on the water, and behind the characters' heads. Always very important to use your blacks judiciously to kind of frame characters, especially their heads, because you know the head of a character is a very important part. It's what we kind of identify with as readers of comics, and so you kind of gotta find creative ways of making it feel like it's all the light and the elements in the drawing are naturally kind of framing the figure and the head. So I'm just building up here, and this is a close-up in not sped up, it's regular time. So I don't have software that will do high-res video right now. I'm investing my money in other things instead, art supplies and comics. So eventually I'll get software that can take higher res images, but at least you get an idea of how it goes in real time. So this is the real speed at which this kind of drawing is done. Real patient. I listen to ambient music such as what you're hearing now, all sorts of different kinds of ambient music that keep me in the zone, and it becomes kind of a meditation, and you take breaks and keep going. It's always better to do long sessions, a couple hours at least, sitting like this, so that you kind of really get into a zone and keep focus. So in the Substack post behind this, like under this, you'll see some other drawings that I made lately that I dropped off at the comic book shop. that I didn't do a time lapse for. I've got an idea for at least one more, and then I'll go back to working on comics, and hopefully soon I can print out those comics and get them out there in the world. I've got plans for tons of comics. I've got tons of issues of Spirit Girl planned out with many new characters. Spirit Girl is kind of like a bright, kind of like a hopeful, optimistic character, but I've got ideas for like conspiracy theorist characters and mech characters and all sorts of characters. So go to comicsodyssey.substack.com, subscribe for all the updates about all that stuff coming up and for more artwork.